Imagine your city passes a new law capping apartment rents at $400 a month. On paper, it's a victory for lower-income families, but in practice, as the price drops, available homes vanish, eventually leaving those same families locked out of the market entirely. To understand that disconnect, we have to look at how prices naturally form. Markets function a lot like gravity. Prices adjust until the quantity people want to buy perfectly matches the quantity sellers are willing to provide. We call this point equilibrium. There are three main reasons a government might try to disrupt this balance: to fix a failing market, to shift who receives the financial benefits, or to nudge the public toward or away from certain products. No matter the intention, intervening in a market is an attempt to fight economic gravity, and that struggle often triggers a series of violent, unintended reactions. Look at what happens on this chart when we set that $400 rent limit. With the price forced down to this artificially low level, consumer demand explodes. Suddenly, 25,000 people are looking for apartments, but the supply side tells a different story. Because the potential profit is capped, landlords have less incentive to offer or maintain units. The available supply plummets to just 10,000 apartments. Since demand now far exceeds supply, the policy creates an immediate shortage of 15,000 units. In the real world, this means families still can't find a place to live, and with so many applicants for so few units, landlords can become hyper-selective about who they choose to rent to. This scarcity drives rent-seeking behavior. Desperate people find themselves forced to offer bribes to building managers just to secure a spot on a waiting list. The very policy meant to guarantee affordable housing often ends up feeding a corrupt black market that locks out the very people it was supposed to protect. But what happens if we flip the scenario? Instead of a maximum price, the government sets a minimum. Imagine a law guaranteeing dairy farmers 3 rupees per liter to protect their incomes. At this high guaranteed price, farmers overproduce, flooding the market with 20 million liters of milk, but consumers only want 15 million. Because demand doesn't meet this artificial supply, the government is caught in a legal trap. To keep the price from crashing, they are forced to step in and buy every drop of that excess milk themselves. In this case, the state spends 30 million rupees of public money just to purchase and store milk that nobody actually needs. By trying to guarantee producer income, the government broke the market's feedback loop, resulting in massive physical waste and a multi-million-dollar bill for taxpayers. Governments also try more subtle nudges, like taxes. Take a tax on fatty foods, designed to discourage unhealthy habits while raising public revenue. Who actually ends up paying that bill? Economists call this tax incidence, and it depends on elasticity, or how much room a buyer actually has to change their behavior. This steep demand curve represents an inelastic market, where consumers are likely to keep buying regardless of the price. Because they won't leave, the buyer pays the bulk of the tax, while the seller's burden is almost non-existent. But if the curve flattens, it means the market is elastic. Consumers can easily switch to a healthier alternative. In this scenario, the corporation is forced to eat the cost of the tax to keep their prices competitive and stop their customers from fleeing. A tax meant to punish corporate behavior often ends up draining the wallets of everyday citizens instead. A policy's intent rarely dictates its reality. These market distortions aren't always permanent. Over time, the underlying forces of supply and demand continue to move. If producers eventually find ways to increase supply, that entire curve can shift to the right. As it moves, the natural market price can drop below an old price ceiling, making the law non-binding and harmless. This doesn't mean government intervention is inherently wrong. Carefully applied taxes and subsidies are essential tools for addressing genuine market failures and protecting public interests. However, economics is rarely a game of perfect solutions. It deals in trade-offs. A government can guarantee a specific price or a certain income, but it cannot delete the relationship between supply and demand. So the next time you hear a promise of a painless fix to market prices, stop and ask yourself, who is being quietly forced to pay for that shortage?